Hey everybody, welcome to the Black Fathers Table. This is a Story New Revive experience. I'm your host, Randy Milner, and this is where real Black fathers sit down and have real conversations that heal, uplift, and empower our homes and our legacy. Tonight we're going to be talking about identity, who we are as men, as fathers, and as leaders, and who we're pressured to be. So tonight I have three other guys, three guys from my past. Here I got Mr. Theron Hobbs, Mr. Donnell Williams, and Mr. Jarvis Talley. If you guys will go ahead and tell everybody about yourself, we can start with you, Jarvis.
Okay. Yeah, I come from the realm where I was raised by my dad. So I chose him to be my father. So that was my greatest mentor all the way to the point where, he was no longer there and I had to figure things out on my own. So as a father, that's where a lot of the wisdom came from. And so having to divert from having a man on earth to depend on to having to lean on God to get that wisdom from him, that's kind of where I am. And it's helped me a lot. That's me.
Amen to that one. Mr. Hobbs.
Hi, Theron Hobbs. I grew up with both my parents, so I had my father in my life, still is. My parents we had married 60 years coming up in June 12th. My father's still that guy for me. And of course, I have a awesome relationship with my Heavenly Father as well. So I grew up in the church, so I'm very grounded from both. I'm just blessed. I'm very blessed.
Mr. Williams.
Well, unlike you guys, I grew up with neither one of my parents. Um, I, I I try to be the best father that I can possibly be. Didn't have really any role models, so I'm just winging this in life.
I got you. Well, the first thing I want to do, and the first thing we're going to do with every episode, I want to go into a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this gathering of these Black men. We hope that you come into this conversation and that you're able to touch another father, that maybe he'll hear something that'll trigger him to be a better father. Maybe it'll trigger him to go get some assistance that he needs. Heavenly Father, we want you to dismiss, and we thank you for being a part of this conversation. And we, continue blessings. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right, we're going to start this off. Jarvis,
Yes, sir.
first question. When did you realize what being a father really meant?
I think when I had my daughter, yeah, which is my oldest daughter now, and I was called by my stepmother to come to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, because my father called me the night before and said he was just having a minor surgery, you know. And so my dad told me, don't come, don't worry about it. It's just something small. But, I was talking to had some mentors of my own, and they said, nah, it's no such thing as minor surgery when you get to a certain age, and you happen to be 54, which is the age that I am now. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm with my daughter, and she's in the waiting room. And when the doctor came out and explained that, nah, it didn't make it, and I was in such a shock. I went, from there, I went into a complete whirlwind from being a son to not having to transition and just say no. Now, I'm a father, and I had to explain that to my daughter. So all of the mountain of wisdom and the mountain of advice and the mountain of just love that I got from my dad, I had to put that into a tool belt and into a toolbox, because just the way that I used to lean on my dad, my earthly dad, for all the answers, call him for everything. Hey, dad, this girl just cut up all my clothes. Hey, dad, that's what this girl. Hey, dad, and he always had, he would always had his wisdom, like, you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. so, so I had to, ingest, man, and become that. Meaning that,
Right.
as careless as I was as a younger parent, I couldn't do that anymore. I had to
Right.
get serious and get into game, because before that, now, I ended up having 5 kids, and they solely depended on me. And I had to, and I was blessed. My dad led me to, to a relationship with Christ and relationship with God, which helped me, but also had his voice in the back of my mind with all of the memories that he gave me, and they was all great ones. So I said, if I'm going to be a dad,
Mhm.
I got to do this thing. and I had to have the honest conversations with my children that no, I won't have all the answers. I am gonna make you angry. You are gonna hate me sometime. You know what I mean? And that was the kind of relationship that I had, period. And so, with that whole relationship that I had with my dad, when I, I was so angry with God after losing my dad that I had to get to a point where I said, okay, all right, God, you did this, you took this from me. Okay, you're my daddy now. And then from there, I started getting the understanding of what it was like, and he circled me back around. And yeah, from there, it things started to make a lot more sense.
Gotcha. I can. I'll get back. I'll get back to me. Go ahead, Mr. Hobbs. what you got for me?
Yeah, my
This gonna
father,
be.
like I said, my father's always been there. Even now, I can call him. There's never been a time where I have called on my father, he wasn't there for me. Early on, before 2 weeks before my 8th birthday, I lost my brother. My brother drowned. My grandmother died like a week before that. So my father buried his mother and his son 2 weeks apart. And so in that time, I just leaned on my parents a lot because it was difficult losing a brother. At 8 years old, about to turn 8 years old, feel like I was abandoned. So growing up like that, man, I deal with a lot of abandonment issues, and I didn't realize it till later on in life when I started, writing stuff and getting spiritual counseling. Even now, my father and I talk about it. He's like, I didn't know certain things happen like that, but we have those conversations even now, still going through some of the healing process. But like I said, I call my father all the time. We talk. Our conversation changed as I got married. Before I got divorced, got married, had kids. The conversation shifted. So I got to have the fatherly advice about being a husband and being a father as well. And then I have 2 kids out of wedlock. So my older 2 kids have the same mom. Then I had 3 from marriage and a divorce. So my father has been my rock, and he still is. And he's 83 years old, 84 this year. He still is my rock. I talk to my mother almost every day. And one of my goals this year was make sure I talk to them every day, and that's what I do. And I try to see them every, once a week. But my father is great, man. He's great. He's great with my kids. I have 5 kids, 4 daughters, and a son. And of course, he really loves that one grandson. So he probably leave everything to my son leave me out, but he's great for my son. My son, because my son don't hear me, he hears his grandfather. So
Right.
I'm glad to have that because my son, he's green. When I say green, he's green. I don't know how he became that way because his dad is not like that, but it's great to have my father to talk to him and also reemphasize the things that I already told him. Try to keep him on the right path.
Gotcha. Donnell,
Well, I
when did you
learned.
first realize what being a father really meant?
I learned from an early age, not having parents, that I've always wanted to be a good father. Um, you know, there comes a time in your life, there's a fork in a road where you got to say, I'm going to continue this cycle, or I'm going to change it. Now, my dad didn't come into my life until I was 40, and so I only got, and then he passed away 7 years after we got good. So um, I didn't have the experiences of good dads, but I was very fortunate to have a lot of people who put their hand on me to guide me. No, little man, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. And then I met my very best friend, Cedric Cross, and his dad gave me the best advice. And I guess that at that moment, I understood what it meant to be or wanting to be a good father. Because you can try to be a good father, or you can want to be a good father. All that is in itself. But watching his interaction with his dad made me realize that that's the relationship I wanted with my kids. And I try to spoil them right. And I got a 6-year-old that drives me crazy. But
6-year-old.
yeah, boy, I try. That's another story. But
Slipped up.
I wasn't a slip up. It was on purpose. But uh, sometimes you get a do-over in life,
Yeah.
and he's my do-over. He's all the mistakes I made with the other ones because there's no handbook on being a parent, you know.
Sure.
Not at all.
And we grow up we want to grow up so fast, and no one tells you that being an adult sucks.
Mhm.
And so at this point, like I say, I learned from the mistakes that my parents made with me, not being there. I've had a lot of counseling. I've sat on a lot of couches explaining this stuff to it, but um, as I never really saw a good role model until I got with Sid and saw him and his dad. So that'd be about the point where I realized that this is what I want in life.
All right. Well, I guess I need to answer that question too, be a part of this conversation. I had an interesting childhood. I was adopted as a kid, as a baby. The thing about this is I knew who my parents were. They divorced when I was a toddler, not even 2 or 3 years old. And so my mom's sister raised me. I've always known, like I said, who my mom was and who she is rather, and spent a lot of time with her. My dad and he was about 15 minutes from me, but there was no really a relationship. I knew who he was. He knew who I was. We were about 15, 20 minutes apart, but that relationship just was not there. I can remember a lot of times sitting in front of that front door waiting for him to show up because he said he was coming to pick me up and he never showed up. But I did have men around. I had my uncle, but he was a working man. He worked 2 jobs. He came home long enough to eat and sleep, and he was at work again. Then my mother, she had remarried, but I never really, be honest with you, I never really gave my stepfather a chance to be a dad. So I really didn't get it until I had my 2 children. Their mother was killed while I was stationed in Japan. She was murdered by the security guard that worked in her apartment. So, it was a choice for me. I had to get out of the Marine Corps, come home, get prepared to be a single dad. Had met this girl in Japan, rushed and got married. One of the biggest mistakes I made in my life. Not her fault, mine, because I never should have put her in that situation. But nevertheless, as time goes on, a lot of things happen in life. And as the turmoil and the tribulations happen, the more I realized that I could not put my children in the situation that I was in and have someone else raise them. And even now, like Donnell's talking about the couches, I've spent time in therapist's office, especially the last couple of years since, after he's talking about his father, he met his father when he was 40. Like I said, my dad and I always knew who each other were, but we really didn't have a relationship until I got old enough to really start to initiate that. He recently died. He died a year ago, a couple weeks ago. And I was blessed enough for us to be able to have a lot of talks before he left this world and get a lot of stuff cleared up. And I asked for forgiveness because I carried a lot of bad feelings toward him for a lot of years. And I was able to ask for forgiveness from him. And I was able to forgive him. And one thing I did learn after talking to him, we only know what we know.
Right.
And so a lot of things that we go through has been passed down, but we didn't even know that we were passing trauma down, until we get in those situations ourselves. So that's when I really got what a father meant, as far as I'm concerned. And I go into the next section of this is, my identity changed a lot when I became a dad, when I became a real dad, not just somebody who had kids, because there's a difference. And a lot of people don't understand that a lot of men that have children, but they're not a lot of dads and fathers. And what it became prevalent to me is one night, because I'd gone through some things, I'd been doing drugs and drinking heavily. And one morning, I looked in my bathroom mirror and asked, "What are you doing?" I had 2 of my children were sitting in their bedroom, asleep, and I was high as a kite. But the clarity came and said, "You got babies in there. You can't do this. You can't do this to yourself." And that was right after, my wife and I had split up, and it was just a lot. But that's when it really came to me that, I had to change my identity and who I was as a man. moving forward from that moment on about what I wanted to do and the father that I wanted to be to my children. So I ask you guys the same question. What part of your identity changed the most when you became a dad? There, you want to hop on that one first?
Okay. Yeah. What changed for me when I first became a father was that I realized that it wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't just about me anymore. And I understood what unconditional love truly was when I became a father, because everything I did was about Gianna, my oldest. It was all about her. Whatever she needed, it was about her. And I learned what I learned how to be unselfish. I did everything for her. My world was centered around Gianna. And so that was a change for me. So I was very intentional about how I moved once Gianna was born. And it made, actually too, it also made me softer. Especially having a daughter, you soft, they have you wrap around their finger. So now I have 4 of them. So I have 4 of them. So 33, 30, 26, and 24, especially 24-year-old, my baby girl. They have me wrap around their finger, man. My youngest daughter called me a couple weeks ago. She said, Dad, my car broke down. Can you help me? Man, that was a highlight of my day. Just for her calling and needing my assistance, that made my day. So I was like, of course I can. Oh yeah, shut everything down, and I rolled out, take care of my baby girl. So, so parenthood softened me up, and also too, my youngest daughter helped me out a couple months ago. She told me, so I'm in a relationship now. I've been dating a young lady. We've been together for 11 years. She's been through a divorce. We met each other around that time, so we kind of went through it together and healed each other, helped each other heal. My daughter told me, she said, Dad, you're not gonna be able to move on until you get over the trauma you've gone through in past relationships. You're not gonna be able to give your current girlfriend the attention and love she needs until you get rid of the trauma and get healed from the trauma of all the other relationships. And it was crazy because there was confirmation, because me and God just had that conversation. And then for my youngest daughter to come to her father with this type of wisdom, it blew me away. And ever since then, man, I've been very intentional. I talked to my girlfriend. I was like, look, we're going to do some things differently. And that's how I'm going to move. I've been very intentional about taking care of her and spending more time with her and being more aware of what's going on. And so, right now, relationships in a totally different level because of that. And I thank God and I thank my daughter for even bring confirmation to that. Just didn't have the courage and the wherewithal to even bring that to my attention.
Yeah, that's strong right there, T.
Yeah.
That's strong right there. Daniel?
Well, I'm hard to learn a lot of things. Well, I'm stubborn, but I think the biggest thing I learned from what changed in me is how I appreciated other women, because I have 3 daughters, and so when God gives the player the daughters, it makes you think a lot of things that you used to do that if someone did to your daughter, shoot them. Right? So in the big picture of everything, it's just how I want my daughters to be treated. I have to be the example. I tell people all the time, especially with this last one, they say, "Oh, she's going to be spoiled rotten. Nobody's going to want her." That's okay because I want her standards to be high.
Right.
I want everything that her daddy did plus more. Right. So if my standards is to make you feel like you're the best thing on this world, this man, whoever you meet, needs to be the best thing. So I believe the biggest deal is just how I want my kids to be treated. The stereotype of a black man is that we can't keep our fishing poles in our pants and we want to run this and run that. But in the big picture, most black men are really good fathers.
Yeah.
And the media doesn't allow that to be because we're supposed to be these demons, right? But just the guys that I used to do, and Casey will tell you, Randy will tell you, we get a lot of crap. And most of the guys that I did a lot of crap with, they are some of the best fathers on the planet. So, like to me, it was just like how I wanted to be my daughters treated. So I had to be the role model for that. Because I always tell my girls, a man can only do to you what you allow a man to do to you.
That's right.
You know, so it's just the big picture is just I just want to be a better man, the example of for my daughters.
Yeah, come on, step in these shoes. You got some big shoes to step into. You want to step in these.
Yes,
What
sir.
about you, Jarvis? What changed about your identity?
I mean, I'll be honest. When I had my very first children, which was my daughter first, and then my son, I I was still who I was. I had graduated from college and got a new corporate job, and it was me, club, 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 drink, 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 party, party, party. You know what I mean? That's all I wanted to do. You know what I mean? And that's who I was, and that was all I knew. But then I will be honest, I hate to keep reverting back to it, but when I lost my dad,
Yeah.
I inherited. I'll be honest, and I wrote a book called Inheritance. That's in the publishing, and it was about not inheriting earthly things, but
Mhm.
inheriting, some spiritual things. And I immediately caught and inherited a lot of the things that my dad endured that I experienced with him in life. I mean, being attacked by the IRS, going through divorce, losing jobs, you know what I mean, and having to move back home, things like that. It's like once he passed, I got a divorce. I lost my job. MCI WorldCom folded. You know what I mean? All the things that I thought I could depend on, that whole ground was shaken and snatched all within a 3-month period. And I think the single moment that I can identify with was when I was in between, one of the little part-time jobs that I was working, trying to keep my head above water. I came home and my ex-wife's parents were in the driveway packing up all the stuff. So my ex-wife wasn't there, and they actually, asked me to help them pack their stuff up. And I was blindsided to the point where, when my ex-wife did pull up, I saw my daughter and my son in the back seat. And, I had to help put their toys that I done bought over the years. And it was a flashback in the whirlwind of, you was a selfish mother sucker, boy. You know what you just missed out on? And and when they get ready to pull off, I hear my daughter say, bye daddy. And then just watching that car until they pull all the way around the corner. And I said, boy, you know how stupid you were? And it was at that moment that I didn't care how much money I had. I didn't care what I had to go through. They was going to have a they daddy in their life. So, after you lose the job and you get evicted from the house and your car get repoed or whatever, and I'm walking the streets trying to figure this thing out. And it was like when the economy had dropped and no IT jobs or nothing, so I couldn't get nothing. I found out where my kids was. I'll never forget. And I took all of that selfishness away. All the people I used to hang with, all the stuff I used to do, me spending $400 and $500 in a club, you don't hear from none of them people when you go through that stuff. They all disappear. You know what I mean? But um, I bought the raggediest car that I could, man, with the money that I scraped, which was a Nissan 240SX. And I was ashamed of it because it was loud. It only had 3 gears and didn't have no windshield wipers. And when I found my kids in Louisiana, and my ex had moved on or whatever, and I pulled up, and my son bust through that screen door, and he told all his cousins, he said, "My daddy got a motorcycle." He was just so proud to see me, and from there, that's when my whole character. My whole character changed, and said, "It's not about me anymore. Every
Right.
single thing that I do is a reflection of," and it reminded me of all the stories that I have of my dad when he was going through those things. So
Right.
had to be an increase, and I had to change. You know what I'm saying? That's what
It's amazing how a lot of these things kind of come together in what seems like tragedy, well, is tragedy. But it kind of refocuses. I think God has a way of doing things where He refocuses you on what's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took you through this, and I brought you this so you could see this.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and if you look at it for what you can get out of it versus what happened to you,
Yeah.
then there's a lot of growth that can happen in
Yeah.
that
Right,
mess.
Yeah.
I mean, we say it's tragedy, but it's really not. You're going through life, and
Yeah.
in life it's not fair. But tragedy is losing somebody,
Right.
losing your house, your car, and all that. All those things you can get back.
Right.
But the love
Yeah.
that you got for your kid when he ran through that door right there
Oh yeah.
cannot be matched.
Yep.
Mhm.
That was it. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget his words when he said that. Yeah.
Right.
Goodness
I was
gracious.
we were at my daughter got her ears she got her ears pierced the other day, third time we've gotten them done. But and her mom said, "Oh, you're brave, and you got that from your mom." And she looked at him. She said, "Oh, I got that from my dad." Yeah. Oh, dude.
There you
So I'm like, "That's my dog.
go.
That's my
You,
dog."
you ain't got a lot. You ain't got a lot to be chill. I know you cried. You shed a
Oh
tear.
no, you know, here's the funniest thing: what being a pops have done to me. I am so emotional when it comes to my kids. Like even the last one. I cry when I pick her up. I cry when I drop her off. I cry when I get off the phone with her. And it's not. It's just one of those things that, like, because I didn't get those things. So
Right.
everything that I'm doing as a dad is all new to me,
Yeah.
right? And so, was new to me. But this last one right here, I mean, I tell y'all, it has been. People are like, "Oh, I couldn't do this over." It's been the greatest thing that ever happened to me. All the mistakes I made from the first ones, I don't have to make here. All the worries I had on the first one, I don't have those worries anymore, and I just literally just to get to enjoy her, watching her grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up.
It's all worth it, man. I'll tell you, because my older two, their mother, she's a piece of work.
Yeah,
She's a
I
piece
got
of
one
work.
of them.
And like you said, Jarvis, I never ever dogged their moms out to them. Whatever version of their mother that they got was one that their mother gave them.
Yeah.
So, in my family union, like two years ago, 2024 on Father's Day, because my kid's mother always told him it was time to pick him up on my visitations time. She wouldn't show up, and then
Mhm.
she'll tell, "See, your dad wouldn't. He didn't come pick you up. He didn't want y'all." But she went somewhere else, not the location that we are supposed to be picking them up. And I was supposed to meet her to pick them up. And
Yeah.
so my kids had animosity for a long time because they thought that she was feeding them all this stuff, about
Mhm.
me, all these untruths about me. And so, and then there were some little issues with my ex-wife as well. On times my kids trying to spend time with my kids, she's like, "Well, we got something planned." Then I talked to my kids the next day. I said, "What y'all do?" "We didn't do anything. Mom was going out, and we was at home by ourselves." And I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay." And so on Father's Day 2024 was our family union, and I was actually the host on that day, and my kids got up. So I said, "Does anybody want to say anything about their fathers?" So people got up, family got up, talked about their fathers and whatever. So my kids got up, all five of them got up, and they spoke about me really well. My oldest came up last. She said, "I'm getting this already." She said, "Dad,"
Mhm.
she said, "Dad, thank you for loving us when we didn't love you back."
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Oh, see, but it was different for me. I mean, because if I had to do an honest self-assessment and put all the
Mhm,
coins together,
mhm,
if I would have been in my ex-wife's shoes, I would have left me.
mhm,
Yeah.
I was a mess. You know what I mean? And I own that. You know what I
mhm,
mean? But I had to pick up the pieces myself and heal from that. Like,
yeah,
well, that's why when he was talking earlier, I was like, boy, what are you doing? Well, all this time that you've wasted,
mhm,
what have you done? And so me and my ex-wife, we actually have an excellent relationship now. You know what I mean? And my ex-wife and my current wife have a excellent relationship now. You know what I mean? They stay on the phone longer than I do. And it's important because um throughout those years, I had to make it I had to consistently prove, not to my kids, because my kids knew their daddy loved them. I had to
mhm,
prove to myself that I'm gonna be, in their life. And my ex-wife is always gonna was for years gonna hold on to the person that I was. And
mhm,
her family would always do, he wasn't none but this, he wasn't all he did was go out and drink or whatever. But no, so I remember distinctly one time on the phone, they were all in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I was in St. Louis. I was living in
mhm,
St. Louis at the time. And I was talking on the phone to my kids, and my son said, Daddy, they got a Father's Day program coming up next week, and I heard his grandmother in the background say he ain't gonna call me all the way in St. Louis. I said, who ain't gonna come? I said, wait a minute,
What
who ain't
time?
gonna come? Yeah, what you talking about? Man, I looked up. I mean, he looked up, and guess who? The daddy was coming through the door. I
In his
didn't care.
motorcycle.
Absolutely.
He was on stage. I was walking through the door. I wasn't gonna miss it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I had to flip all of that for myself.
Mhm.
Because you can't get that stuff back.
No.
You sure can.
You can't get it back.
And to your point, Jarvis, because I was actually having a conversation with my oldest daughter probably last year. Well, yeah, last year, because I actually was on the phone with them and asked, apologize to them for my shortcomings as a father. Because I was trying to take all the stuff that I thought I'd learned and be this great dad.
Mhm.
So I had to, be the provider. And she's like, Daddy, we understand everything, about losing, their mother and, getting remarried and getting divorced. And now I'm married again. And, I'm working all the time. And she's like, I understood that. But my biggest thing was I needed you at home more.
There you go.
Mm.
Yeah.
And, my biggest thing was, well, I got a good job selling cars and, we live in a nice house. You got a couple cars, my wife, make sure they get to all the school functions, stuff like that. But I wasn't there.
Right.
Mm.
Yes.
And I had to really, I had to own that. Even at that point, she's grown now. She's 30. She had own kids. I got grandkids. I got grandkids. But that's something that she still, as an adult, she think back that say, okay, well, yeah, I know my daddy loved me, but when I needed him the most, when I wanted to talk to him, when I wanted to cry on his shoulder,
Mhm.
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
I was
No,
just
so
about
it was just one of those things that I had to, trying to, like the one was said earlier about being intentional. I lost that part. And
But
especially
but
after losing my dad, I had to come back and be like, okay, don't beat yourself over it because you were doing what you
right.
thought was best.
Right.
But what I'm saying is,
It's like
Brother
I
Randy,
tell,
you shouldn't.
I lost your vocal. I lost your vocal.
yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, y'all don't hear me?
Okay,
yeah,
I
we
can hear you
get
now.
it.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. But the thing was, is you admitted that there was no handbook and you didn't have it all.
Right.
So, even within the past year, my oldest daughter confronted me. She said, Daddy, one of the biggest problems that I have is you don't call me all the time and you don't stay on the phone long. But consistently through my life, I can show you love, but I am just not a phone person. I'm just not. Like I could hear from my dad once every 2 weeks or maybe once a month, and it would be like, "You all right?" It was the same with my son all through life. It was like, "You all right? You need anything? No, I'm cool, whatever." You know what I mean?
All right.
But girls, they don't understand that. My daughter, she sat me down and she said, "Daddy, you don't call me. You just don't." You know what I mean? You can be there and you send stuff, but sometimes I want to talk to me. I'm like, here, I'm here. But so I don't think that I purposely missed the mark, but I had to purposely, step up and do those things for her because it was important
Well, it's
to
Yeah,
her.
just
also
like Eric said, it's about being intentional. And,
Right.
and that's one thing that stuck out when he said that was, he had to be intentional about, even with his folks,
Yeah.
making sure he called them every day. And I have to be better at that too, because I'm not a phone person either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think I grew up that way I spent so much time by myself as a kid that I don't mind being by myself. I don't mind if I don't talk to you for a couple of weeks. You know what I'm saying? I'm okay. And if you don't call me, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I can't be that way with my children,
Right.
because I'm even that way with my children. And my mom to an extent, and to my aunt who raised me, that adopted me. I don't talk to them every day because I never had that. I never felt like I had a connection like that with anybody, just because I had so much time by myself and I had to entertain myself. I
well
couldn't really go anywhere, and so
another
it's just that's
deal,
just the way I was. Sorry.
another deal is that we're so programmed that we have to get that bag in order to take care of people that you put all the other things on the back burner because you got to be the person who supplied everything.
Yeah.
you know and so that makes it really hard because you're thinking that you're showing them that you love them by getting up every day, going to work. And most people don't work jobs that they love. I mean, if we're honest. So you're getting up every day to make sure that you got this, but in
Yeah.
reality, all they want is some of this, right? And so it makes it rough as being a father, no matter what color you are, you
Right.
know, it, because we're supposed to be the providers.
Yeah.
You know what though? What I found out as a father, even though our kids are grown, we still the fathers, so we still have to initiate. Cause like my daughter, my second oldest daughter, it was one point, man, we talked for like 3 or 4 years. But you know what? I never gave up. I still text her and called her. Will she call me back or not? Taryn. I still called her. I still text her. Will she call back or not? And now, all 5 of my kids, we get on the phone, man. We stay on there for an hour.
And that's cool.
We'll stay on there for an hour and a half. My son, my daughters, any of them, we stay on the phone forever. And what I love about it now is that they're all adults and they still like hanging out with daddy. They still like going and hanging out with daddy. That's what I love the most. They're like, hey, let's go out to eat. Let's kick it. Of course, they never had to pay for anything, but you know, but it's just the fact that I have adult kids who still think it's cool to hang out with his father.
Yeah,
That's what's
cool.
up. Because that leads us, was the next piece of, what do we have to unlearn? And I think we don't understand what we have to unlearn because we never know what we were supposed to learn. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? We're saying we got to, like, for me, one thing I need to unlearn is with just me retraining myself is pick up the phone, text.
Yeah, that's
be intentional. And I told a friend of mine was having a conversation last week. I said, well, if you don't put it on the calendar, you'll make an excuse not to do it. And that's what being intentional is. So, I'm making myself a mental note and a physical note too. Set a day, even just for 15 minutes. Set a day, make a call. Then answer the phone, leave a message. You did it. Just keep doing it. Like Darren said, whether his daughter answered the phone or not, whether she returned the call or not, it was still intentional, and she could never say that he didn't reach out.
That's a good idea. I like that.
You know what I'm saying? So
I'm envy of you guys because you guys knew who your dad was. Your dads were around. I mean, you said your parents been married 60 years. I don't know anybody who's been married. I couldn't put our relatives together to be 60. But I had to learn that what love was from a parent because I never got love from my parents. So I had to unlearn that the harshness, sadness, the anger that you have, you can't bring it to the table. I'm a big believer. I have to tell I tell my kids everything. I try not to lie to them about anything. And so I talk to them about my mom, which my mom is in my life now, and my dad was like, because I had to make a decision where your childhood is 18 years of your life. Your adult is whatever God gives you after that. And I'm going to have more of those years. So do I make memories with my parents and forgive them, even though the damage they've done to me is unreversible? So I had to come to grips and say, okay, this is not about me anymore. This is about my kids having grandparents, right? And my parents are great grandparents. I mean, my dad was until he passed, and my mom, my kids get away with things that I could have never imagined getting away with. But I had to unlearn that people do love you, and there is a way to love your kids, whether you're in their lives every day or you see them once a month or whatever it is. There's a way to love them, and it's not what the love I thought. So I had to relearn. I had to relearn love.
I had to relearn trust because even with the death of my brother, I lost. I felt felt abandoned. So I didn't realize it allowed me to have a trust issue. Because even now, when I talk to my youngest daughter, I was telling her even that even for my marriage, I felt now that I can tell my ex-wife, my former wife, she didn't get all of me. She didn't because I had trust issues from the loss of my brother. So even right now, I'm trying to make sure that my partner, she gets the best of me, the most of me, and I'm learning how to be the best version of myself. So like I said, I'm intentional about certain things. I make sure I write certain things out. Like you said, Randy, I put them on my calendar. I call her throughout the day, text her. Um, even like I told my daughter, I said, I'm gonna make sure that Maisha gets the best version of me because I didn't get it to her mother. So I'm taking ownership in that a lot of stuff. I didn't blame everything on our divorce on her because I had a lot to do too as a man. Because like you say, you don't know what you don't know. And so, and there's, we all go through trauma, divorce, death, all that stuff is traumatic. So, and sometimes we do go through that stuff, we get stuck. We have to get unstuck, and you get stuck. And I can tell you, I got stuck for a couple of years. I was just stuck. You were just existing. You weren't really living. And so, when you realize that, you got to start making some changes. That's why you got to have forums like this. We can have these conversations so we can heal. We can heal together.
Yeah. What I try to tell some of my the people that I'm around or that I hang around who have kids is that you have to be very careful about when your kids hit that age that they start going in their room more, closing the door, shutting themselves off, and
Mhm.
wanting their privacy. Because it took me going through sets of kids to understand that that room it ain't nothing but a time machine.
It's
But when they
dangerous.
start doing that, you'll turn around. They graduate. You know what I mean? Just like that.
Yeah.
And for me, as a man, I deal with that same thing, and I have to unlearn it because one of the dangerous things in my life is a man cave. I get down to that man cave, I'm unjudged. I can watch what I want. I can do what
Got
I
to answer to
want.
nobody.
Ain't got to answer to nobody. It's soundproof. I can do radio shows like that. So, but at the same time, it's a time machine. And the more that I do it, and the more that I bury myself down here, I'm losing time. So there's an
Yeah.
unlearning process for me is, and I do talk to my wife now about it. I gotta come upstairs, gotta engage. Get them out their rooms. We
Mhm.
still eat dinner at the table. We make it mandatory. We'll have movie nights where we just everybody put a blanket on the couch and you know what I mean. So I'm trying to get more intentional, about that stuff
Mhm.
because I didn't realize that my daughter felt that way about me not talking to her all the time, only because through my entire life I was never a phone person.
Mhm.
So even though she lives in Arkansas and I live here, it's the same thing that my kids here can experience with me coming downstairs in the basement. So I'm a whip. I'm a work in progress, but you know what I mean? Those are one of the things that I've got to change about me. I've got to, or I'll look
Yeah.
up and they'll all be gone. you
Yeah.
know?
And that's why
Yeah.
all my kids are grown. So, I mean, I have grandchildren now. So my focus has changed a little bit because I want to be more intentional about the time that I have with them when they're here with me that I didn't spend with my own children. 'Cause like you said, they're grown.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed enough to have, you know, my wife and I are two different ends of the spectrum. She's very, very talkative. She's outgoing. She's never met a stranger. Like I said, for me, I'm okay with walking to my office and closing my door
Woo!
and
Hallelujah.
they ain't got to say nothing to nobody all day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I have to check myself because she'll be like, "Baby, you okay?" I'm fine.
Yeah.
Baby, you okay?
That's it.
I said I'm
That's it.
okay. You know what I'm saying? So I have to, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But that's just I hate to say program, but that's just what I've been used to my whole time is just being by myself.
Yeah.
Like you said, Jarvis, I don't have to worry about being judged. I don't
Right.
have to answer those questions. I don't have to, I don't have to be accountable when I'm by myself.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have to account to anybody, because I can tell God whatever and he ain't gonna tell nobody. But I don't have to be accountable to nobody. I can just sit in my
Yeah.
space and play on my computer and watch my sports and and work on books and stuff like that. But that's just my space now. So I've really just tried to pour myself into like you said there, into building this platform so I can help so I could be around some other folks to help me be the best man and best father that I can be, even moving forward.
Yeah.
Even if
Which brings me go ahead. And which brings me to this. What do you want your children to know about who you truly are? Don't everybody jump up.
I want my kids to know that I'm a loving, caring person, and there's nothing in this world I wouldn't have done for them or will do for them. And that this story was not supposed to end the way it has ended. I'm very blessed to be in the situation I am in life. And just because your book starts out as a horror story doesn't mean it can be a fairy tale at the end.
Yeah.
Facts.
The same. I just want my kids to know that I love them more than life itself. All of them. And I have 5, so I call them my heartbeats. The 5 heartbeats.
Yeah.
They love that. And that's what they are. They're my heartbeats. The only thing, the biggest thing in the world I love to see when they smile, that's all I need. See all of them smiling. There's nothing you could do or give me that makes me more happy than see all them smile and being together. And they're like little kids. They be all over each other. They're together like they be all over each other. We have family calls now. We're trying to get it more, but 5 of them. And I told them, I said, you guys got to be tight and close because one day it's gonna be all you have. And so they have family calls and they be on the phone for hours, just the 5 of them just talking. And they'll hang out together, everything. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I think I want mine just to understand that I make mistakes and it's okay. And I don't have all the answers, but I am somebody that we can figure some of these things out together, and that they do understand, they've been there where they're gonna go through some things that are gonna hurt. And if nothing else, they've got a father who is unconditional, and by proving myself being unconditional, there's nothing that my children could physically ever say or do or think that would make me love them any less or be there for them any less. And so they have to navigate through some of the things in life. My dad was a pastor and I was a prostitute. he loved he loved me through it. My dad knew I was a mess. But he loved me unconditionally. You know what I mean? And so no matter what my kids face in life, I'm always gonna be daddy. Daddy's always gonna be there, So even with the prodigal son in the Bible, the prodigal son went off, did his mess, did his thing, and his dad said, "Hey, I got a whole robe here waiting for you. Just come on home." You know what I
Just
mean?
come home.
I want my kids to have it on that understanding too. That's it.
Now that you said that, it reminds me of hearing guys say, if my son gay, I'm not gonna love him no more.
Yeah, that's stupid.
He's still your son. I'm not gonna love him any more, any less. You might not like, might not like the situation or whatever, but I'm not gonna disown my son.
But that's a conversation him and God gotta have. That ain't a conversation me and him gotta have.
Right. Right.
And I think for me with that, I've just the last couple of years, especially since right before my dad passed and after he passed, and I started working on my first book, I just want to be transparent with my kids. Let them know what the struggles were. But yeah, I did, was doing drugs at one time and I had to come out of it. And I can pat myself on the back. I can admit this to the world. I was drinking even up until the last few months. I had surgery last year and I was drinking. Before then, I was drinking every day. Still masking everything. Nobody really knew it, but I would sit home, I'd knock back a 6-pack Corona every day, not a bat in the eye. But like I said, God sends you through things. Because I'd asked him earlier, God, please just take this away from me. Because I know I can't be what I need to be to other men and to other young men if I'm still in this state. So obviously, you have surgery, you got to go through antibiotics and, so that was no drinking. Then I realized, I'm like, I ain't drunk nothing in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And then that went for another month or so. And then went for another 2 months to 3 months, then 4 months. And, I'm not saying that I've stopped drinking completely, but now I know how to drink. I can have a beer or two now and not worry about it. I can go to sleep without having a buzz. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to, God has enabled me to be able to sleep and go to sleep without having that extra crutch. So, that's one thing about who I truly am is I want them to know who their daddy is, who I was, what I came through to get to this point, because I think it's important, just like you were saying earlier, Jarvis, we're human. We're going to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
And just because you make mistakes doesn't mean that you're a bad person, because you are not your worst day. You're not your worst mistake. You just talking about the prodigal son. I mean, that message in itself should to let anybody know that, we're all going to make some mistakes and we're all going to fall short. But thank God for grace. Like Donnell said, you get a do-over now. You didn't do everything right the first time, but you've been blessed to have another chance.
Yeah.
One, to live to do it, and then to have a child that looks up to you the way your baby girl look up to you. Those are things that are important, I feel. And I want to close out with this thought right here, and I want each one of us to complete this sentence, and I'll start. The truest thing about me as a father is I understand that I've lived more days than I have left. And my mission moving forward is to make sure that as few fathers and sons and children have to go through what I went through. That is the truest thing about me, and whatever time I got left on this planet is understand that about me, that my mission and my purpose has been understood because I've gone through what I've gone through.
Yeah.
Next, the truest thing about me as a father is.
Truest thing about me as a father is that my mission is to make sure that divorced fathers and unwed fathers stay engaged in their kids' lives, and that they're accountable and responsible and intentional about being engaged in their kids' lives, and also emotionally mature enough to have a relationship with their kid's mother, to be good co-parents for the well-being of kids. Make sure his kids have a father first mentality.
You go ahead, Jarvis.
All right. I think the truest thing about me as a father is not only am I understanding that I don't always expect our relationship to always be perfect, but as I mentioned before, the unconditional love is there so strong with my children that no matter how angry we get with each other, or how much I disappoint them, or how much they may disappoint me, we will never ever come to a point where we could never restore, renew, and revive. I say, look at that plug.
Appreciate the plug, my brother. Appreciate the plug. I appreciate the plug.
It's the truth. It's an excellent book, man. Randall Milner. Should be a doctor on the back of this thing somewhere.
Don't see. You'll Theron need to stay off the phone together, because he was saying, "You gonna finish it?" I will. God's willing, in July, I graduate with my bachelor's in psychology. I put off for 30 some odd years. So that's the transformation has been a godsend.
Congratulations.
Just to be able to from where I used to be, like I said, thank God I don't look like what I've been through, but I'm so blessed that I've been able to make it to this point, because I made some terrible decisions in my life. Terrible. I mean, some that probably could have put my life in danger. And it wasn't because of the Marine Corps. But thank God I'm still here. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean to go ahead, Donnell.
I think the truest thing about me is that I have weathered the storm, and I'm here. I coach sports, all sports, and I talk to boys at the boys' clubs and I'm here. The truest thing about me is that I'm here for whatever kid that needs a father to step in whatever shape or form it is. I've coached over 500 kids, and they know that they can call me and ask me for anything. So those who grew up like me do not have to be lonely anymore.
Right.
And that's the good thing about me.
That's what's up. I don't know about y'all, but I've enjoyed this last hour.
Positive, man.
Absolutely.
And I hope, like I said, when we opened up, that someone watching this will, if they only get just one plug out of it, to be able to move forward. And I want to thank the three of you for giving me some of your time this evening, sharing some of your personal stories, and pouring into some men that really, really need it. And so if anybody has any other closing words before we close out.
I do. I just want everybody to know it's okay to love each other. We're in this society where people are all about themselves, but it is okay to cry. It's okay to let your feelings out. It is okay to love each other.
Mm-hmm.
As Black men, we should root for ourselves more than any other race there is, because we've been to the biggest struggle. So I talk to kids all the time, and I can't cry, I can't do this. All those do not make you less of a man. It makes you more of a man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mine is be intentional. And also, Black men, just know that you don't have to go on this journey alone.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you reach out to someone.
Yeah. I guess my last statement is, as a man, there are some things that in your life that you can clean up that would make you better. And for me, like my brother Randall, one of the things that I wanted to clean up was I wanted clarity. I wanted to figure out, why do I drink? And so I asked myself, one of the reasons that I don't drink as much as I do was, every time that I would have a drink, I would identify why. And every man has an area of their life that they can do the same thing, whether it's, pornography or women, or, being in strip clubs or whatever. Is If, as a man, I just want to say that as a man, you have the ability to identify why. And, as an example, one of the reasons that I would drink would be to either foster an alter ego, to be the funny dude that people expect me to be, to escape from something, that I didn't want to deal with. Sometimes that was my wife, that was my kids. That's what we're talking about. I had a man cave, whatever. So it was an escape. But neither one of those were valid reasons. But the third one was, sometimes I felt like, either we're right or wrong, I felt like I earned it. I deserved it. I had a long day. I had a hard day at work. Shoes. Man, me a Corona. Ice cold, frosted, living off the sides. I earned that. I earned that. So no matter what men go through in life, you're not expected to be perfect. But if there are ways that you can be better, and I look right at the camera and say that, if there are ways that you can be better, identify some of the reasons why you do some of the things that you do, and you have a lot easier time getting through it. That's what happened to your boy.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
Brothers, if you're ready to go deeper, please join the Restore, Renew, Revive community for Black fathers at www.restorerenewrevive.net. I'm building this thing out. We're going to have some courses in there for Black fathers that you can take, some more roundtable discussions, just discussions among us. Don't fear about social media. Nobody can share those type of things. It's all contained within the community. So please join us. We'd love to have you. The more, the merrier. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I really appreciate it. And this episode has been wonderful. If you hold on for a second for me, I'm going to go ahead and sign it off, but y'all can hold tight for me. Let me make sure all the recording goes through. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Peace.